What is up, everybody? Welcome back once again to Hot Toys Hotline. As always, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel and drop a like on this video. I would very much appreciate it. As you can see here in front of me, I do have the Boss Man 2.0 or the SST-047 by SooSoo Toys. Believe it or not, guys, this is limited to only 300 pieces. And because of that, this one was announced and released very quickly. So I do have it in my hands already. Surprisingly, I was very surprised when I got the invoice. But quickly, let's take a quick look around the box. You kind of have a somewhat low-res image here of Kingpin on the front, and then you have your SooSoo exclusive sticker in the corner. Very nice-looking art box overall. If we turn it to the side, you kind of have that cityscape on the side. As we flip it around to the back, as always, guys, if you would like to pause this and read this, probably not, but if you would like to, of course, you could do that. Moving it around over here, you do have another shot of a cityscape on the side. Again, very low-res, but that's kind of the style of the art on this box. Real quick, let me pull this lid off. And upon taking the top cover off, you can see we are greeted with this very goofy looking image here. So you have like a cartoonish style Kingpin body, but with the Vincent D'Onofrio head on there. Definitely looks really goofy. However, I think the pops of color are really neat. It definitely catches your eye, that's for sure. I just opened that up and I thought that was really interesting. But now, of course, as always, with that being said, let's get this pesky packaging out of the way, and we're going to take a look at those plastic clamshells and see how it arrives when it lands on your doorstep. And just like that, here we are. Now, I will say there is another coat taped on the underside of this box, so when you get yours, make sure you look under there because that is included in this box. But this is how it arrives to you. So now, without further ado, let me take the figure and all of the accessories out of the box, and we'll take a closer look at all of the details. Well, believe it or not, this is all that he comes with. Now, I will say, guys, this is a relatively inexpensive figure. I believe it was around $140 shipped, so keep that in mind. I'm not going to be too hard on this one for the accessories because it was a pretty inexpensive figure. Now, the first thing that I want to take a look at is the display base here because I found something very interesting, and it may be obvious to you all. Of course, we have a crotch grabber here. I'll get that out of the way. So some of you may or may not know, this version of Kingpin is actually from the Hawkeye show. However, it has the double D on here. I'm assuming that means Daredevil because, of course, we did see Kingpin in the Daredevil show. Interesting they didn't change that. It's not a huge deal to me. I just kind of noticed that and thought that was funny. Doesn't really bother me too much, like I said, but just wanted to point that out. I will say, though, this display base looks really cool. I know it's a reused base, but I do love this Hawaiian flower print. This looks really good. It's got a nice punch of color to it. Overall, I think it's pretty nice, and I will say I feel like this base is going to be pretty crucial because this is a really tall figure, so I expect some possible stability issues. There is no nameplate or anything on the front. On the underside, it's just plain white. So overall, really cool looking display base. Again, that just caught me off guard. I don't know why that says Daredevil on it, other than the fact that they just reused the base. So next, we'll take a look at the hands. First, we have this set here. In terms of the paint apps, as you can see, there is some depth to that paint work. If we look closely, you could see there's a bit of speckling and such throughout the skin. Overall, really nicely done by SooSoo Toys. This is my first figure from them, and so far, in terms of the paint apps, I'm pretty impressed. If we flip one of these over to the other side, of course, these are just fist hands that are mirrored on both sides, but again, the paint apps look pretty nice. And also, I just wanted to point out, you can see there's a bit of excess plastic there on that fist. Not a huge deal to me, but I just wanted to point that out. Next, we're just going to quickly go through these hands. Of course, we have our cane holding hands here. Again, really nicely painted, really nicely sculpted. I have no complaints about these. As you can see, they are made to hold that cane that he comes with. Really nicely done. And finally, we have two open, relaxed hands, as many figures do include, but these are also sculpted and painted very nicely. I really have no complaints about the sculpt and paintwork on these thus far. All right, next we're going to grab the hat. Some of you may be wondering, is this fabric or sculpted plastic? This is a sculpted plastic, a very flimsy sculpted plastic, but overall, I think it looks really nice. If we look closely, there is some sculpted in fabric detail on there to make it look like real fabric. And overall, I think it's pretty nicely done. We see that hat band is clearly hand painted, and I think for the most part, it's painted pretty well. And of course, this can be put on that head sculpt, so we will take a look at that later at the end of the video. Overall, though, really nicely done. Next, one of the best accessories is the cane. Of course, we have this faux diamond here at the top. Really nicely done. It looks very clear. You can see right through it. I think that looks pretty awesome. The paint apps on the gold here look pretty convincing in my opinion. And overall, of course, this is a very cool and a very essential accessory for the character. So I'm really happy with how this looks. No complaints there. And last but certainly not least, we have this overcoat here. The fabric on this is actually really nice. I think this is really nicely tailored. If we look closely at all the stitch lines on the pockets and where the buttons are aligned, I think it looks really good overall. Turning around to the back, very clean stitching on the back as well. Overall, this is really nicely done. And if we open it up, we can see it kind of has this faux velvet material in here. It feels a little cheap. I'm not going to nitpick on that. I just wanted to point that out. It does feel a little cheap in there, but overall, the look is what matters, and it looks very convincing. And again, the material of this overcoat is pretty nice. Alright guys, now something else that I wanted to point out that I also left out of the accessory portion is the wiring throughout this long coat. So you have wiring in the lapel, and it really stays wherever you would want it to be. It's really nicely done. It runs all the way down, also around the outside edge as well. So I wanted to point that out because I think they did a great job on this coat overall, and I'm sorry that I left it out when I was originally filming the accessory portion of the video. So with that being said, guys, of course, now let me put all of the accessories to the side, and we're going to take a look at the figure and see what we think of the SooSoo Toys Kingpin 2.0. Okay, so here we are with the SooSoo Toys Kingpin 2.0. Now, once again, as I said in the accessory portion of the video, this is the look of Kingpin from the Hawkeye show. When I saw this go up, I really wanted to grab it. Unfortunately, Hot Toys gave us the Kate Bishop, but they never gave us the Hawkeye. So I thought this would be great to go with that Kate Bishop from Hot Toys. Obviously, they did have that awesome fight scene towards the end of the show. So that is why I picked this one up. But let's get a close-up really quick of this head sculpt, guys. I do think this is pretty good. Is it a perfect 10 out of 10? No, but I think it's a very strong likeness. If we turn it to the side, I think the likeness is there from the side as well. Of course, he has a bald head, so that's less work they have to do on any sculpted hair or anything, but overall, I think this looks pretty good. I do believe this is the same sculpt from the 1.0. I don't have the 1.0 bloody or regular version, so this is new to me, and I think overall it looks really good. Of course, let me adjust the lighting real quick, and we'll take a look at it in a more yellow light. Okay, so here we are in a more yellow light, and of course, it looks pretty dang good. I almost prefer it in this lighting with this head sculpt. I think it looks really good. The likeness to Vincent D'Onofrio is undeniably there. Again, not 100% for me, but I think this is a pretty strong head sculpt. I think SooSoo Toys did a pretty good job with this one. But let me back up the camera just a little bit and adjust my lighting back, and we're going to take a look at the rest of the figure. Okay, I apologize if you guys can hear a lawnmower in the background. However, let's take a look at the rest of this figure. I do think this is very nicely tailored. I think SooSoo did a good job at adding padding where they needed to, especially in that belly, abdomen area. I think that looks pretty spot on in terms of proportions. We do have a real metal chain here around the neck, which you always love to see. The blazer is tailored very well. It has that same faux velvet material on the inside there. Moving it around to the back, again, really nice job on the tailoring. I think they did a great job fitting it to his body without making it too tight. I think it looks pretty spot on in my opinion. And again, that fat suit really adds to that curvature of the belly quite a bit, and I think it looks really good. I wanted to insert this into the video where I saw fit. I wanted to point out, I noticed as I was posing this figure, there are some glue stains on the buttonholes here that I missed when I was filming the accessory portion of the video, and you can see it is present there on the back as well. Just wanted to be fully transparent and something to keep an eye out for if you guys do get this figure, so I just wanted to let you guys know that. And of course, we have that awesome Hawaiian shirt underneath that really adds some pop to this outfit that I very much do enjoy. Moving down to the pants, these are a slightly different, more loose material than the coat. But overall, I think they look really good and they drape very well over the shoes. Of course, pre-installed on the figure, guys, we do have some open, relaxed hands, slightly different from the other ones that we saw in the accessory portion of the video. And then, of course, we have some fancy white loafers here. Pretty nicely sculpted, but very basic. They really don't have that much pop to them. I don't know if that is just due to the design from the show or if that is on SooSoo's part, but overall, I don't have too many complaints about that. And of course, if we lift up the pant leg, we do have some 1/6 scale socks as well. You love to see it. And then we do have some awesome looking tread here on the bottom. Overall, really nicely done. I think he looks pretty solid. Now, of course, a lot of you are going to ask, how well does this figure pose? Well, starting with the head, left to right, completely free moving. However, this does have a fixed neck, so the forward and backward movement is completely non-existent, so definitely keep that in mind. Taking a look at the shoulders, not too bad. It's really kind of difficult to get a full 90 out of these, so keep that in mind. If we put them down and try to go forward, a bit of restriction from not only the body but the suit as well, but it is certainly doable. You can kind of hear that restriction, especially in this arm. And then something that I've noticed as I'm playing around with it, in terms of bending at the elbow, these are ratcheted joints, but they are single jointed, unfortunately. So it does stop right at 90 there. Now, I did notice on this arm, I really have to fight it to get it to pose. Like, it's way tighter than the other arm, so definitely keep that in mind. In terms of the hands, while we're here, you do have full range of motion with this ball joint here. Now keep in mind, these are a bit on the looser side, so they may loosen up on you over time, so be very careful with those. Let me put the arms back down and we'll move down to the ab crunch. In terms of ab crunch, you can really put them forward pretty far, more than you would really want them to, so I think that's pretty good in my opinion. Overall, I have no complaints about that. Moving down, I'm very curious to see how he bends at the waist. So you could hear the restriction there, guys. Be very careful. I will say this is not the best body. I'm not impressed thus far by how posable it is, but be very careful with that. In terms of the posability at the knee, it's not ratcheted, but it's not super loose to where I'm worried about it, and it should be the same here on both sides. Now, the part that I am worried about, and I know the first version had issues, was the ankles. I will say, when I opened this up out of the box and took all the plastic off the figure, one of the feet was just laying in the box. These are incredibly loose. Incredibly loose, to the point where I would not trust this figure without the display stand. I'll be totally honest with you. Of course, it does pose very easily, but that's kind of a bad thing. And of course, it's going to be the same on both sides. I do think this is the weakest part of the figure. Oftentimes, people will say third-party figures have very weak ankle joints. This is by far the worst I've experienced thus far, so definitely be very careful. I would highly recommend using that display stand, because even if you can get him standing straight up and down in your display, I could see him slowly kind of seeping back or forward over time, because again, it is so loose. So definitely be very careful when posing this figure. Not a huge fan of this body, guys. I gotta be honest with you. That's definitely a detractor for me. But with that being said, let me throw him in a couple poses and we're gonna close out this video. Overall, guys, I think this is a pretty decent offering from SooSoo Toys, despite the issue of the glue and the terrible body that I mentioned during this video. I think it looks really good. I can't wait to throw it on my shelf fighting Kate Bishop. Let me know what you guys think of this figure in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.